In this video, I want to cover the basics of how to use the ChatGPT API. The first thing that we need to do in order to use the ChatGPT API is to get an API key. So you can currently see that I'm logged into my OpenAI account. And if I want to retrieve an API key, all I have to do is I have to navigate to the top right hand corner and then press on View API Keys. And then in the small list down here, you will see that I already have an API key. But if I want to generate a new one, all I have to do is I have to press on Create New Secret Key. Within the window that has popped up, I can now give the API key a name. I'm simply going to call it Example. And afterwards, I'm going to press on Create Secret Key. After the key has successfully been created, I can now go ahead and copy it out and press on Done. Bear in mind to store away the API key safely so that no one else can use it. I'm only going to be using this API key one time, and I'll delete it after the video has been uploaded. Now, over in PyCharm, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to deposit the API key that I just copied within the environment variables. To do that, I'm going to click on the configuration in the top right hand corner. In my case, it's called Sample. And then I'm going to click on Edit Configurations. And over here, you can see that I have all the parameters of the configuration listed. And I'm going to go down to the one called Environment Variables, where I'm going to click on Edit Environment Variables. And within that, I can now add a new environment variable with the API key that I just copied from OpenAI. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this plus icon. And then within the first name field, I'm going to give the API key a name, and we're simply going to name it API underscore key. And then in the value field, I'm going to paste the value of the API key, and then I'm going to hit on OK. And finally on Apply. Now the environment variable is saved and I can retrieve it when I need it. So now that we have the API key set up, let's see how we can send a prompt through the API and then retrieve an answer from ChatGPT. So let's go ahead and start with a couple of necessary imports. I'm going to import OpenAI, JSON, and OS. After that, I'm going to set the API key equal to os.getEnv. And then within brackets and quotation marks, I'm going to write API underscore key. So over here, I'm simply retrieving the environment variable that I created just a moment ago with the API key that we got from OpenAI. I do want to point out that although I'm using environment variables to handle API keys, if you don't want to do that, the alternative way would simply be to write OpenAI.API underscore key and then set that equal to the API key within quotation marks. We're going to save the response that we receive from OpenAI in the variable called response, which we're going to set equal to OpenAI.chatCompletion.create, and then within brackets, we're first going to specify the model which we're going to use, which is going to be GPT 3.5 Turbo. So this is quite simply the language model which is going to be used to process our request. After that, we need to specify the message that we want to send to ChatGPT. And we're going to simply write role, user, and then in the content, we're going to ask a question such as, what's the size of our Earth? Below that, we can now simply go ahead and print the response, and in the terminal output, you will see that we have a very large JSON dictionary. If we now have a closer look at the JSON dictionary that was returned in the terminal, you will see that under content, we actually get the answer to our prompt. Because over here you can see that in the answer it tells us what the approximate diameter and the dimensions of Earth are. So we've managed to send a prompt to ChatGPT through the API and retrieve an answer. The final question that remains is, how can we actually isolate this answer from the dictionary? Because after all, I don't want to display the entire dictionary, but only the answer that I get for the prompt that I sent. And to do that, we're first going to turn the response to a string by simply writing response underscore string equals json.dumps and then within brackets response. So the response underscore string variable now stores the JSON dictionary that we saw earlier in the terminal. And we can turn all of this into a Python dictionary quite simply by choosing a new variable name, such as response underscore dictionary, and setting that equal to json.loads and then passing in response underscore string within the parentheses. So the response underscore dict now stores a Python dictionary, And if we want to print the response to our prompt, we can now go ahead and print response_dict, then choices 0, message, and content. And if I go ahead and now execute this, you will see that the terminal output only shows me the answer to my prompt. Alright, I'm going to leave it here for this very first video on the ChatGPT API. If you would like me to make more videos on this topic, then let me know by leaving a like down below and subscribing to my channel. See you in the next video.